All these rumors are fun to talk about, and Red Bull hasn't blown up yet.
Alex Albon's birthday, and his gift, Logan Sargent's car.
With the drain covers, why is this such a big issue?
That's what I'm saying. Alonso more and more is looking like Aaron Rodgers.
He's geriatric. We just kind of want him for merit mark.
You cannot win a constructor's battle when your second driver is not performing.
Grab your popcorn, folks. Things are getting crazy.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Lights Out Latest. My name is Marina, and I'm here with Tristan, Steven, and Jason. And today we're going to dive into the world of Drive to Survive. There's a lot to get into. But before that, as always, headlines. I want to talk a little bit about Seb and Mick. They did the Race of Champions, had also like a little special tribute to Michael. Of course, Seb and Michael did that. They did, right? They did, was that? How many years ago?
They did, and I think in 2012 or 13,
it's been over a decade.
they did ROC. Even before that, they've done it other years too.
Wasn't that the infamous year when Michael Schumacher lost to known NASCAR driver Carl Edwards? I'm pretty sure.
Oh my gosh!
Someone in the comments is gonna have to fact check me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
I love also that with this kind of tribute, it's resurfaced the clip of Seb driving with his feet.
Yeah.
Yes,
That
that
is
is
great. I think I
pretty
sent that in
funny.
our group chat, or someone sent it in the group chat. It's like, it's a great clip because I'm sitting there thinking, like, how does that work? Like, I don't know. I can barely drive, so.
Is it his heel toe tactic with the shifter?
No, literally, he was sat they were both sat way up out of the seats.
Yeah,
They're basically standing in the car,
and then he's
and
steering
then he
with
had
his foot.
yeah.
That's crazy.
So
Interesting.
very interesting. Speaking of people that can't drive, Mr. Beast crashed a Formula E car. At his
Crashed, yeah.
this week.
Not really.
I mean, crashed.
He spun out.
Did
Well,
he
call it
actually hit
crash.
anything?
I feel like we call that a crash, don't we? Like in F1, if someone spins out, even if they don't hit anything, they still crashed.
It's the same terminology. I think like crash and spin out are synonymous. Understandably, yeah, spin out is like less
I think
serious.
a spin out is a crash. Like most spin outs are a crash, but not all crashes are a spin out.
Yeah, that's fair. I can agree.
Wait, no. Not all crashes are spinouts, but not all spinouts are crashes. That's what you meant.
Is that what she said? Was that
No.
not
No, she said not all crashes are spinouts.
Yeah, but you can
I think-
crash and not spin out.
What a great
Yeah, I guess so.
topic.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways, the point being is that he did not make contact with the wall, or
Yeah.
barely, and he did it on his own. So,
Yeah.
What team do you do this for is what I want to know.
Cupra, they tune Audis, kind of like how Shelby tunes
Oh.
Fords.
Okay. Cool.
How did this even come about? Like, I feel like he's never been in the motorsports world. Like, this is just
Well-
kind of like new.
I mean, I would say that he's always been an environmental guy, and Formula E is like the most environmentally friendly motorsport category.
Yeah.
So,
Honestly,
if
both
he's
of them
gonna
are
do
looking
it,
for content.
yeah,
100%.
100%.
he's always looking for content.
Relevant somehow.
Where was it
What
uploaded?
did Mr. Beast do to you?
I'm not saying Mr. Beast. I'm saying Formula E's got to get relevant somehow. And if Mr. Beast makes a video about Formula E, then obviously it's going to gain some traction. If most people aren't going to be fans because of his video, but they might go check out a race because of his video.
Yeah.
So it's a great marketing play, and the fact that he spun out only makes it that time much better because we're sitting here on an F1 podcast talking about the fact that Mr. Beast spun out in a Formula E car. So
I
it's
took
also,
100 of my friends.
It shows the professionalism, but also like the athletic caliber it takes to drive these cars. Like I know, I'm sure maybe Steven might have seen it. Richard Hammond and for Top Gear was given the opportunity. He started at like a Formula GT car and then like worked his way up to what used to be Fernando Alonso's Formula One car, and just getting that thing started.
Yeah.
It's like, it kind of like showed, because Mr. Beast, the clip, he's like at pace speed and he spins out,
Yeah.
It's a Formula E car. I mean, I would like to say I could at least give it a shot, right? I think all of us
Yeah.
could. But like, it still shows, this is not an easy deal.
Yeah.
at
No.
all.
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking about the shakedown you gotta get just to use the steering wheel popularly.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you gotta be in there for like a couple hours. Like,
Yeah. I mean, does the Formula E car even have a gearbox? No, right?
I don't think so. I think it's just one gear.
Not
Well, actually,
so
I think it used to,
as how
actually.
yeah, so how I understand the
Yeah.
rules is that the only parts you're really allowed to make your own are the drivetrain and how it turns the wheels, which is kind of like the gearbox, but they
Yeah.
don't shift gears. So
No.
like each motor has their own noise and sound because they all
Right.
use different gearing to get, achieve propulsion.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, you're not shifting gears. You don't really
No.
have to learn that. But like you said, there's so many other parts of the car you kind of got to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonder if Mr. Beast can drive a manual. These are questions I will have to Google after the pod.
I think
Mr.
he
Beast
can.
drive a manual. That's not something I ever thought we would say.
Can anybody in this podcast drive a manual?
No, if Mr. Beast can
Not
drive
in
a
real
manual,
life.
never something I thought. It was not on my 2025 bingo card, for lack of a better reference. Like,
Fair enough. Well, no, genuine question. Can anybody here drive manual? Anybody?
I've never driven
I've
it in
never driven
person, but
I've-
actually, I did it. Does a motorbike count? I've done it on a dirt bike.
I mean, it does. You still have a clutch, but it's like
Yeah.
it's a different concept. So I was gonna say because I've driven a dirt bike, like I understand that. I've never driven a
Yeah.
manual car though. Never had the opportunity. to be-
Yeah, me too.
Same.
Never,
Yeah, like
never had the
it's kind of
opportunity.
rare to like somebody actually drives a manual as a daily.
probably had the opportunity, given that a lot of the cars, like where my grandparents are at, like over in Brazil, are
Mhm.
manual. So when I go and visit, there are people like in my family that have manual cars. Granted, I don't even have my driver's license for an automatic car, so
Right.
tried.
Well, fair enough. Fair enough.
We'll get there eventually. Anyways, speaking of cars, Cadillac has it's an official announcement, but we feel we all already knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
11th team on the grid for 26. But what I thought interesting was the current drivers that are in consideration. The list is kind of like they're picking from like the trash can, right? It's Checo,
Whoa.
Mick, Schumacher, Zhou Guanyu, and again, this one I'll
Ooh.
give credit to Colton Herta. I actually like that one. However,
Conor would be a
it
good
just
one.
feels like they're just picking from everybody that just got discarded. Like, oh, you're not good enough.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
actually,
Alex Palou is gonna get that seat. I really do.
No,
think-
Pato Ward might
Why
because
would
he
I
really
follow
wants to be an
Palou not? Palou
F1.
wanted to leave in general IndyCar like 2 years ago. He tried
That's
to
true,
scheme his
and
way
that
out
was the
of
whole
it.
point of going to McLaren was he would have a chance
Yeah, that
in
was
the
the whole
F1
deal.
McLaren.
Yeah.
And then when he found out going to IndyCar, McLaren didn't set him up for that. He backed out of the IndyCar deal.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it the trash can. I would say the experienced drivers list. Now, if they would have put Mick Schumacher in the car, then you could be like, yeah, no, that's a horrible
don't get me
decision.
wrong.
But
They just they made a list of all the drivers that were discarded by other teams.
yeah, but they at least
You're
were
not good
decent.
enough for Formula One, and then they were like, actually, we're gonna have an 11th team, so maybe you are.
Like
good
you put
enough for-"
Bottas in there, he has experience.
Yeah.
Checo, and for his credit, he has experience and was so good until
I don't think Bottas wants
until
back.
2022. They just need at least one driver with experience to figure out what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's
I just
true.
don't know if those are any of the guys that you'd want to build your franchise with.
I think
Yeah.
you would. Well, I don't know if you build a franchise off your first drivers, but I think you
Well,
almost
yeah.
do. You almost do kind of want like a Hulkenberg and Magnussen kind of lineup.
I mean, the trash can, like you said, would be like a Brendan Hartley or a Mick Schumacher, and they're still great drivers. But
I would-
for F1,
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
that
tough
would be
deal.
the trash can.
I think I would. What I would love is to have one person experienced, whether that be someone that's going to shift within F1, like someone who's already on the grid for 25, and then someone from a different series. Because I think, as much as I love F2 and F3, think that we've had a lot of F2 rookies for this year. I would kind of love to see someone from a different series get a chance. I mean, I know I don't put this on the list, but Max was at a track over the last couple weeks with sim racing drivers that are now going to get a shot in GT cars.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so I think that we've got to find more avenues for people in other series to jump over to F1 because there's some great drivers
Yeah.
in IndyCar, for example, that I think could do a great job. Granted, there's also a lot of IndyCar drivers that came from F2 that just weren't good enough or the
Yeah.
timing didn't work out for them, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, it's just that
We'll
world.
see.
Well, now there's gonna be 22 drivers, but there's only 20 of them, and it's timing is very crucial. Like, unfortunately or fortunately for, I guess, like Liam Lawson, Checo sucking so bad gave him the opportunity to take that seat.
Or even
If Checo
Daniel
was
not coming
consistent,
back.
Liam doesn't get
you
that
know?
seat. You know?
Yeah, would
Yeah.
Daniel be in the
Sure.
shot of the seat?
Yeah.
For Cadillac, I don't think so.
Oh
Okay.
no. I mean, this is kind of spoilers to what we're gonna talk about later. But Danny seems like he's done.
Daniel's done. I
Yeah.
think Daniel
he's done.
is Daniel's biggest, and again, Will Buxton said this in the show. Daniel's biggest mistake was leaving Red Bull in 2018. That
Yeah.
was his biggest number one error. So
Yeah.
once that happened, his entire journey has been trying to get back to that Red Bull team. And I think once he tried and failed, I think that's kind of like done. That's done for him.
He had his one
Yeah.
last in with Christian Horner just loving him. You know, Christian Horner, big fan. So I mean, that
big
was
fan.
you know,
So
yeah.
Loves him more than Max. We know this.
oh yeah, I will agree with that actually.
Yeah, because Max wasn't a Christian pick. He was a Helmut
Helmut
Marko
Marko
pick.
pick.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I think there's also the added thing of there's a slight conflict between Max and Christian in the fact that
Yeah.
Jos Verstappen, Max's dad, hates Christian's guts.
Yeah.
You can never
Yeah.
like love the guy completely because his like on Christian's side, his dad hates you, and on Max's side, my dad hates the person I'm supposed to be like besties with. Like it's a tough
Yeah.
situation. So I think in that regard, it automatically makes Danny kind of the favorite child, let's say.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Makes
anyways,
sense.
speaking of that, though, let's move into Drive to Survive. I want to get your overall thoughts first, and then we can jump into some of the things that they maybe highlighted that you liked, or maybe some of the things that they missed that we wish they would have talked about. So, thoughts on the show as a whole?
I mean,
as a whole, more so.
Yeah, I'll give it just an outright score. I give it like a 7 out of 10. I think what was there was exciting, but I think we'll get into it. Like certain things were missed or misconstrued in a way. But again, I mean, I hate to say it, but you got to preface Drive to Survive with that. It's a dramatized docuseries. Like that's what it's for.
It's docudrama.
Netflix doing what they'll do, like they're gonna prey on a lot of the fans that don't have an insane amount of intellectual knowledge on the sport or chronological order of events. So I get it. I thought it was really interesting. And again, I've seen season 6 and 5, but I haven't watched the earlier ones. But the chronological events that they chose to do it with the timing of the season, like, for example, like as you go through the season of the show, it also goes through the season of the sport.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's unique to this season. I'm just forgetting season 6.
They always end with Abu Dhabi.
Yeah,
no matter what. If there's a storyline there or not, they always end with
Abu Dhabi. But I think the difference, to Tristan's point, this year is I think they definitely chose to put team stories in an order that made more sense chronologically. Like we did start with Ferrari. Why? Because we started with Ferrari and Mercedes because that's the first thing that happened in the year, right? It was Lewis going to Ferrari. Now, at the end, then you still had that like mini battle for P6 between Alpine and Haas, and they stuck that at the end because of Brazil as well. I think they did a much better job of telling the story, I guess, chronologically.
That's what I was getting at. Yeah,
incorporating the races because the races themselves have drama in them, right? Granted, there's a lot of seasons. Season 6, for example, they didn't have as much of that, right? Because you don't have anyone fighting for P1, so it's tough. But they did a much better job, in my opinion, of incorporating the actual racing.
And that's what we were excited for.
I
think
the
we
Brazil
talked about that.
is essentially a highlight of Brazil. Like if you go to like F1 highlights on YouTube, that's basically what they showed, right?
Yeah.
So
you got to relish in seeing Max be awesome and Lando sucking in Brazil. So
how does one go from 17th to 1st while the other goes from 1st to 6th? I mean, you know, that show. It was definitely it was the highlight of the season. Let's be so for real.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, though, they still missed a lot. Like so much.
It's a tough deal.
Because the biggest issue this year was like last year there's almost nothing, and then this year there's almost too much to go off of.
Yeah.
So like
that's
they
why
had
I think
to miss out on all the Colapinto stuff.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't even in it.
Yeah,
I think
go for it.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say I think unfortunately for them, like you said, there was too much to go over. So I think that they had to kind of pick a few things they're going to touch on, and if other dramas didn't fit into the storyline, they weren't going to do it. Like I
Yeah.
know they didn't touch on George's disqualification in Spa. They did touch on his rivalry with Max.
Yeah.
I think that's just simply because they had too much and it just didn't make sense in the storyline,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
no,
Yeah.
you hit the nail on the head. Like the whole point of the George at Spa was his brilliance in coming in for the other stop and
Yeah.
him having a
Yeah.
good race.
Yeah.
You know, if they would have said at the end, "Oh, actually, he didn't win," it doesn't matter. You know, that would ruin the story because
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I was gonna
which
say
is
they
a little
completely
weird, but
glanced
like as
it.
a fan, I know that he was disqualified, but
Yeah.
it would have made for
So
I can
though, the
agree it would have been a
celebration.
terrible
Yeah.
episode.
They showed the
Yeah.
celebration and everything, and I'm like, this story doesn't end as well as I know it's being
Yeah.
portrayed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But obviously, the whole point of the story was to show that George can do it. You know,
Yeah.
that was the whole point. So
Yeah.
it is what it is, I guess, on that front.
Could you
Yeah.
imagine if you're like if you're coming into the sport for the first time and like you're seeing that race and then you just had to be told that George didn't actually win?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? That's how you like find out.
Well, the way
Yeah.
I would have done it had I been Netflix is again, it like to your point, it does ruin their storyline, but
Yeah.
I would have just put like I think they did it in one episode where they like the last thing was like a black thing with white text on it. That
That's
was like,
exactly what I was gonna say.
look,
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
been like George Russell like lost this win, but he won in Austria. You know,
Yeah.
like they
Yeah.
were like taking advantage. So like, or again, maybe just picking to do Austria instead of Spa. Granted, I think Spa
Yeah, but
was
that's
a
not.
victory, but
Yeah, he
Austria
kind of lucked out in
had
Austria.
advantage. And even that team radio of him going, Toto, shut up! I know what I'm doing. You know, like
Yeah.
I think that would have just as well played into their story. Sorry.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know.
True.
To that point, though, there was kind of a lack of sit-down interviews with drivers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot from Will
That's true.
Buxton, a lot from Zach Brown. Christian Horner had something to say about everything.
He was in every
Of
episode.
course.
Episode.
A lot of episodes started with him. I mean,
Yeah.
I understand we're probably going to talk about it, but I'm actually colored surprised that they put the allegations into an episode.
So that's an
It's
interesting
the
one.
Google Drive to
because-
Survive.
Yeah.
Mm.
So much something that they allegedly can't even talk about. Like,
Mhm.
there's a gag order on this topic. Like, Christian Horner has told media that they're like, I guess it's more complicated than just telling the media, but the media has been told not to cover this topic. So
Yeah.
the fact that Drive to Survive was able to cover it and that Christian commented on it in Drive to Survive, and there was a whole, like, essentially a whole episode about it,
A long episode of it. Yeah.
Mm.
it's kind of crazy to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
You know, Christian did not watch that episode.
I'm surprised because I feel like Drive to Survive fans aren't Christian fans, so I was kind of surprised to see him as much as we did.
That's true. I mean, if Drive to Survive, if you're going to have anybody be a fan of a team principal, it would have been Gunther. But a modern team principal, maybe probably Zach, people probably associate more with. I will say he was very good in the show.
Or Toto.
Or Toto. Toto, yeah, at the same time.
Or
I-
Toto's
Fred.
very prominent.
People love Fred. Fred is hilarious.
Yeah.
He was
Fred is
awesome.
funny.
He was cool. Yeah.
I thought it was funny though that he did all his interviews in French.
Yeah.
Like why? Like I know you speak English. I've seen your interviews in English.
I mean, Bernardo did that too. He spoke it all in Italian, even though he speaks
yeah.
fine
Maybe it's just
English.
a Ferrari thing. Maybe they just
Could be.
decided that's what Ferrari.
It's
Maybe
like a
it's
power-
a creative
it's like a power
direction.
thing.
It makes it feel foreign and more important.
Yeah, I guess.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
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 That is true.
The other
Did
thing.
anybody
Go
oh,
for
I'm
it.
sorry. Go continue.
Go for it.
I was just gonna ask if anybody had a favorite moment they wanted to talk about, because I have one.
Go for it.
It involved Liam Lawson's test with what's it called, Christian, when they're talking in the garage and they're like, oh yeah, so Max is gonna come down, you're gonna try and match his time. And then Liam's face just the camera.
What I really liked about that episode was the fact that they literally show Max in a black t-shirt saying hi to them. He gets changed, he gets in the car, he does 2
Yeah.
laps, and then the next
Gets out.
thing show is him
Yeah.
back in the black t-shirt, like I'm getting out of here. Like
Yeah.
he really, granted, Drive to Survive, so we don't know how much is true or not, because that's also not like publicized like Imola
Yeah.
kind of testing sessions, but from what we understand, Max showed up for all of an hour, did the couple laps that he was asked to do, and left just so that Liam would have a benchmark.
Yeah.
And Liam did a great job. Granted, I don't think that the Imola testings have worked well for Red Bull in the past. Let's be so
Right.
clear. Danny Rick was also within a tenth of Max. I think that was Barcelona, but still, like, it was a test session. He went and matched Max's time. So,
Yeah.
but then he wasn't as good. I think Danny Rick's problem, personally, I think Danny Rick can't drive a bad car. He's great at driving a good car, but he can't drive a bad car.
Hmm.
That's kind of, not can't, but it's harder for him to drive a bad car. I think had he been given the shot at Red Bull, he probably would have done decently. But anyways, anybody else have a favorite moment?
Not particularly.
I have a favorite
It was
episode.
all dull.
It was cool. They gave the drivers their own cameras.
I did
It was
really
kind of
say that.
funny how much Christian was there. That's true. The look at the curse of Leclerc. Imagine if he didn't win that race. Like that would have been like they would have had to save all that stuff for like next year or something. That
Yeah.
would have been a bad story.
I was gonna say maybe as a replacement for a ton of driver interviews was the Singapore episode, I guess.
Yeah.
Because they kind of took control of it.
Yeah.
Like imagine
feel
saying
like-
that back before Drive to Survive, or even when it started, like, oh, drivers will kind of bring a camo with them and they'll vlog the race.
Yeah.
You never see that.
I really liked that behind the scenes footage.
Mm-hmm.
I thought
Something-
it kind of go for it.
Oh, sorry. Something I said that is really cool that I thought was Carlos Sainz talking to Lewis Hamilton about his move to Ferrari.
Mm.
Yeah, the little tidbits of Carlos
Yeah.
asking people. Or
Yeah.
I did remember. I don't know if God, when was this? I don't know what episode this was, but it was Pierre going to Charles, being like, "Dude, I want your." He was talking in French. He goes, "I really want your teammate. Like, please."
Let me have Lewis.
But yeah, I think because that was like, I also really loved in that episode the little tidbits of them popping in, like, I don't know, waiting for Carlos from other drivers, because every
Yeah.
team was waiting for Carlos Sainz to decide where he was going to go before they made their move. Like,
Yeah.
they at most had one driver signed for so much of the season until Carlos was like, "Oh, I'm going to Williams," and then everybody kind of just followed, suit to select what was left, I guess, or whether they were going to keep their current drivers or not. But I thought
Yeah.
that was funny.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was going into kind of like what they touched on. They touched a lot on that. I felt like they could have done more with Lewis to Ferrari. I felt like that was so impactful, and yet, like, it almost was like, oh, we're setting this up so that we can just talk about Carlos to
Yeah.
See, but is
It
that
was-
Lewis's fault? Probably for not wanting to participate.
probably, yeah, because
Yeah.
It could have been.
yeah, I don't think that's particularly on Netflix. I think just Lewis not doing Drive to Survive kind of.
Mhm. The only times we saw him was in like idle footage. Was like when they were talking on the bus, driving around the track, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
true.
I will say too. I was just gonna say, I feel like too they could be holding this off for the next season, low key.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah, but if he's not a part of it, then it doesn't really matter. Like, I
Well,
want
yeah.
him to be a part of it. Like, sure,
Yeah.
the Toto stuff was great. And
Mhm.
then, Carlos Sainz was a story that played throughout the whole season. So, like, they could really carry with that.
Yeah. Like I'll give credit where credit's due. Like Max, somebody we didn't expect to see like at all, at least like actively in the show, did have a short segment where he participated and talked and did an interview for
Yeah.
Netflix and
he
whatnot.
did like one sit down interview with Netflix.
He was obviously on camera a lot just because he won and was in the top 3 quite a bit. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, at the very least though, he did it. He could have just not done that, and they could have just. I mean, unfortunately, Max's sake, they probably would have dramatized it even more if he didn't get the opportunity.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
the best thing for me was, of course, Max is seen as the villain, but it's because I think people are finally coming around to the fact that we villainize this man because he wins so much, because we don't like that he wins, not because he's a bad guy. Because more and more and more, every time I see an interview with a mechanic, with a team principal, everyone is, we love Max. Max is a great guy. But I thought it was so funny that they compared on-track Max to off-track Lando. It was like Max is like, he's like all or nothing, like fighting spirit, whatever. And then it's like, and Lando has cats. It's like, no, Max has cats, but it was like a video of Lando playing with puppies or cats or
Oh my
something. And I was
gosh.
like, right, that's how we're gonna. Because honest to God, they didn't have anything else to villainize Max with this year. Like, he didn't do much except for the one couple like penalties that we had, but they didn't even talk about that. Like they
Yeah.
touched like Max versus Lando, but they didn't ever like make it a beef kind of thing. It was just like, oh, they're competing on track, kind of.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, good for them though. I mean,
Yep.
I'm glad they didn't villainize it too much.
yeah. One of the things that I found hilarious was that we barely even I don't even know if we ever talked about the return of Flavio Briatore on this podcast, as in when it happened during the season. This man is quite possibly the funniest person I've ever that's ever been on Drive to Survive. He's better than Gunther, in my opinion. He's hilarious. And I love that every bit of the show contradicted every bit of what he said.
Mm.
Like Susie Wolf is in there like, what Fabio Briatore wants, he gets. And then it's like, I want Carlos Sainz. And then Carlos Sainz goes to Williams. Like,
Yeah.
that was funny.
Oh yeah.
He's like a genie.
Yeah.
He's funny. I didn't realize the connection. Again, this is me being newish to the sport still, of him being the team principal for Fernando. I didn't
Yeah.
realize like the party animal that he was, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So that was, I don't know. It adds more to like the intrigue to him for me, because like Jason kept commenting on like, obviously, and I only just noticed it after he would say something, like him just leaking pictures of like the Alpine car through like the team meetings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was funny though, seeing the scene. I talked about it before pod, was him. They did the 2 hard shots of Val sitting at the desk, and then Flavio sitting at the desk, and then Carlos picking Val's, obviously going to Williams, and Flavio just sitting there, just like nobody's here. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they got a shot of like maybe like his assistant, someone walking in from the team into his office at the very end and
Mhm.
walking back out, and then it's just him alone in his office.
Mhm.
And I'm just thinking like, surely this man was like had to do something more than just sit there. Like I was waiting for him to like against the wall when they were just sitting at that shot. I was like, okay.
Wow, it's also the theatrics. Like, I'm sure that was just B-roll. That wasn't even the day Carlos was supposed to show
Oh,
up.
100%.
Like that, you know.
I don't know
But
that there was ever a day that Carlos was supposed to show up.
I doubt he was ever going to go to Alpine. I really think that was like his third choice.
Yeah.
I think Steak was his number 2.
I actually think that he had
Oh.
more inkling into Alpine that the media ever fed, because they saw Alpine as someone that didn't have much to offer,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or as a team that didn't have much to offer. But I think he actually did. Like, I wouldn't be. I think that the way it played out in Netflix was partially the way it actually played out, because I do remember it getting very close of being like, it's going to be Williams, it's going to be Williams. We're all talking about it, and then it kind of like cooled off for a second before it was official.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that was Flavio getting on the phone being like, come to Alpine. I just don't think that there was like, he may have held off and been like, okay, let me explore this option. I just don't think that it was ever like, let me explore this option, I'm going to sign a contract. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think it ever got that far.
Yeah.
Like Drive to Survive alluded to. So
Yeah. True.
Sure.
You were talking about favorite parts.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to say that my favorite part was the downfall of Checo. That was, I loved watching that all in one concise episode throughout the entire season.
Mm-hmm.
And Liam Lawson was always smiling. You can't tell me he didn't already know when he did his first sit-down interview, because he was all...
Yeah.
All depends on the timing of that interview, I think. But I think, like, yeah, it depends. Like, I wish there was almost like a timestamp that could tell us when that interview happened, because then you could time it out with like, oh, Checo just DNF'd the day before or something like that. It was the downfall of Checo, and that whole episode is crazy. Again, that also combines with the episode where Max tested the car, which just literally just Liam's facial expression in that episode, like that second when Christian told him, it was literally like it was fucking crazy. But no, I mean, again, we talk so evil on Checo the whole season. Again, he deserved it, but he's acted so like innocent, I guess you could say, like very PR kind of approach to his interviews.
He didn't like. I think when if you compare,
he's never dissed the team.
No.
But also like I think there's other drivers like Lando and Charles are two that very like come to mind that are like very hard on themselves in the media. Like they'll go to thing and be like, that was my fault, that's on me, whatever. I don't think many other drivers do that, but to your point, Checo definitely didn't. Checo never owned up to his mistakes in the media. I don't ever remember Checo saying, "Yep, that was a bad spin on my part," or "That was a bad crash," or "I shouldn't." Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I don't know. I hate the playing innocent act. Like, you're not innocent. You're terrible.
Did
Well,
kind of say
he's playing the victim.
yeah.
I mean,
He's
not that he
like
isn't the victim, but you know.
Yeah. He did say in one of his interviews, he's like, it's really hard to come onto this Red Bull team and compete against Max. And it's like, like he's insinuating the team is built around Max, which
Yeah.
probably is. But
It
like,
is.
I mean, it is.
At this
It
point.
is.
yeah.
I
"Oh,
mean,
the car is what it is.
Yeah.
Max
When-
can just
when you-
drive." But
Max
when
is the
you-
veteran of the team, is the
Yeah.
point.
yeah.
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 yeah,
Well, it's interesting to me because the I think we've talked about before, the whole dynamic of the Red Bull team is unlike any other team. Like,
Yeah.
you're going to Red Bull as number 2 driver, set in stone.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you are going there to make Max look good, essentially.
yeah. Well, the
Yeah.
only
No, that's the whole point right now.
kind of
Yeah.
like that is Mercedes, and again, that
Yeah.
changed this year.
But even then, it could be a battle this year again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true. We don't know really.
You're not going to Red Bull to be better than Max. You're going to Red Bull to help Max.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think that's where Liam Lawson has a slight advantage. I think it's in two ways.
Yeah.
First of all, I think Liam Lawson is more like Max than people give him credit for. I
No,
think
I agree.
like he's kind of crazy. Like he seems all
Yeah.
sweet outside of the car, but in the car, like they showed that moment in Mexico where he gave Checo the finger.
Yeah.
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 That is very Max Verstappen thing to do. Like
Yeah.
Oh
so
yeah.
I think that's part of the reason they got picked. Like we had so much success with Max, a lot of aggression there. That's like on track and stuff. That's fine. We still won 4
Yeah.
championships with him. So I think in part they were kind of looking for someone to
Yeah.
show that they cared that much. Because that's also like
Yeah.
aggressive or not. That's like I care that much that I'm gonna give this guy the finger when I'm supposed to be like trying to take his job. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
so.
As long
Brandon
as
got
I'm
backlash
cool with
for that.
it, as long as he doesn't overdo it and then try to, it ruins his
Yeah.
Max
potentially.
performances.
The one thing about that episode that pissed me off was the way they set it up with Danny talking to PR made no sense because all of the times he was talking to PR, they insinuated it was after one race or during one race weekend. It was a completely different one. One of them was like Australia. And I was like, how do you confuse that with like Silverstone? Like they're very far apart. It's like the context
Yeah. Yeah.
story they created weren't as accurate as I would have wanted. But again, it's Drive to Survive. Like I don't know that I was expecting anything different, but
Yeah.
I will say, Drive to Survive giving Danny a better send off than V-Carb was not in my, bingo card, as Marina
Yeah.
said. It was kind of crazy.
It was in my bingo
Yeah.
card. I was waiting.
I mean, yeah, it's fair. It's predicted. It could be predicted.
Danny
He
Rick
was
is
the star.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, he's more of a star. He's more synonymous with Netflix than he is with
Yeah.
V-Card.
Him being such a funkle was so cool, though. Him hanging out with his, I'm assuming
youngin.
it's his, yeah, that was so cool.
His nephew.
I was gonna mention that, and then Kimi Antonelli's brief couple of interviews were really cool. So, like what were they called? Right towards the end, they were asking him like, "Oh, can you say the name of the team you're racing for?" And he's like, "I'm racing for what is the full name again? Mercedes AMG Petronas."
Yeah. Well, I thought that also like all of the rookies. I think Ollie Behrman had very like cute, let's say, interviews, and Jack Doohan calling Carlos Sainz the paddock slut was really funny.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Because obviously he's not making it like sexual. He's just talking about the fact that he's talking to every team across the paddock, and it's annoying for him. But all of the rookies had good. I really liked the home footage of Kimi Antonelli of him finding out. I don't know if I count that finding out because I really don't think that's when he found out. Like,
No.
I think that's a little bit set up. And granted, I think there's not a lot. There's a couple scenes that are like that are more home footage. That if Driver's Drive is coming to your house, either you're already a Mercedes F1 driver or you know it's coming. You've already kind of been told.
Yeah.
And they're just
They did the best they could. Yeah, I mean, planned, it was definitely planned content, but
which
still,
doesn't
it's
bother
like,
me. It's fine.
yeah.
So
There's only so much you can do with that.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do, like Steven said, but it's like it was good for what it was. There was also, oh god, what was I gonna say? What was I gonna mention?
Charles,
Oh no, blanked out. It blanked.
were you gonna talk about
Drawing a
Monaco?
blank.
You brought it up before.
No, not Monaco. I can't remember what I was gonna say. Ugh, anger, shame.
I will talk about Monaco though, because I loved that episode. It's cinematic. It never won't be, like it's
Yeah.
Lando in Miami and Charles and Monaco were definitely some of the highlights of the season, just no matter who you're a fan of, right?
Yeah.
But I hated that there was very little new footage. Like nothing, none of that behind the scenes footage was anything we hadn't already seen because
Mhm.
Charles posted a lot of that footage before. So
Yeah.
for his Monaco vlog. So I hated that, like, I would have hoped the Drive to Survive had more behind the scenes from that weekend for fans to really enjoy.
Yeah.
But
I guess that's just me lacking content because I never saw any of that footage. So, I mean, it was fresh for me.
nice.
But I don't know. I mean, it's
That's what
like,
I enjoyed.
well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I just like I've only actually recently followed Leclerc, like I think like a couple months ago. Like I finally followed him on Instagram. So, but yeah, no, I mean, if I had a highlight episode, it would be the Monaco episode just because the sentimentality was so good. I like the clip that they used. I don't know if it was on his socials before, but Leclerc was asking about breakfast, I think. And then his girlfriend was like, or what's for breakfast? And he was like, kebab.
Yeah.
So I was like, what do you mean it's not breakfast? He's like, it's 3:00. And then hard cuts, like right at 3:00.
Was that in the Monaco episode? Was that not?
No,
like,
that was, could have sworn that was Monaco.
I thought
It was in the Monaco episode.
Monaco episode, but I think that they were, because I want to say, I could be wrong, but I want to say that was them. I think that was the Singapore episode because it was them staying on, because it was his footage, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah, it probably was. Yeah.
I want to say that was the Singapore episode because it was him, like, because they were all on, they were supposed to stay on,
Yeah.
whatever they were on, Monaco, UK, whatever,
Yeah.
because the race is so late that you still get up. Like, I thought it started, the alarm clock was like 2 p.m. They were getting up or something like that. So I think she was eating lunch and he was eating breakfast. And she was like, "You want chicken for breakfast?" And he's like, "No, that's disgusting."
Well, I have a question, actually. You guys might be able to answer this. So he had mentioned in one of the episodes, he got into his like hotel room and there was a piano. Does he ask for a piano at every track he goes to? Because like it insinuated it to me. It felt like that's how he unwinds, is playing piano.
It definitely is. I don't know that he gets one everywhere. I think that it's become very well known that Charles likes the piano.
Yeah.
So whether that's an internal team thing of being like, can you get him a piano? Or it's a hotel thing of being like, we know he likes one.
Oh, yeah.
Get one in the suite, or if they have a suite that has one or something like that.
It might have been more of that because he sounded excited. He was like, oh, nice, a piano. Something like that. So,
I think he probably doesn't have one everywhere, but I'm sure he has one at some places.
Yeah. All right. I was
That'd
curious.
be such a cool storyline. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
No, I love that. We talked about it on one of the 360 Sports live show episodes we did about Charles releasing music. It's definitely, he talked about it a lot of it being like something he kind of uses to wind down and stuff. So
I think he released more recently, like this year.
Last year.
Yeah, like, does he just go by his name? Like, if I was to Google like Charles Leclerc music, show up?
Go to Spotify.
You find the albums.
Go to Charles Leclerc on Spotify.
Huh. Well, I don't have Spotify because I'm broken poor. But so yeah.
And you can go like Charles Leclerc music on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, it's on YouTube. Yeah, it's all here.
It is.
So
very cool. Nice.
I want to talk, before we get into some of my favorite quotes, I want to talk about some of the things they missed. Like we said, there was a lot to cover. Some of the things I'm not too mad about. Some of the things I think it's stupid they didn't cover it because they could have so easily put it in without making it a big thing on screen. For example, Adrian Newey leaving Red Bull could have so easily been put in that episode where they're talking about kind of the downfall of Red Bull and Christian Horner and the allegations.
Yeah.
Because they kind of came right around that time. They could have just dropped it in. Like, it would have taken them maybe 1 minute to mention it.
They could have given Will Buxton just like, here, talk about it for 5 seconds and we'll throw it in. Yeah.
Exactly. So that was kind of I hated that Franco Colapinto didn't get any screen time.
Yeah. Especially when that was a big deal, especially when he came in and got points in like his first race, I think.
Yep.
I love how he was in the final montage. Reading that message at the very end of episode 10.
Yeah.
Frank was in that montage, but they never once talked about it. Like, if you're not a huge F1 fan and you're watching that and you're like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
This person is. So, they also touched on Ollie Behrman taking over for K-Mag. when
Yeah.
but they didn't talk about Ollie and Jeddah.
No.
So it's like, why, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They could have done
Yeah.
like in the Carlos Sainz deal. They could have been like, "Oh yeah, so he's out for this weekend," and then Carlos like maybe just for a second they'd be like, "Hey, can you just talk about Ollie just taking over the car and doing a good job?" You know, or like
Yeah.
maybe something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
feels like more
Yeah.
covering the race. I feel like at least they included some of it. Like at least they included the Haas drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, because I think again, that's another thing where they could have included it in 2 different episodes. They could have included it in some of the Haas footage. They could have also just mentioned it when they mentioned they covered the whole Carlos journey of him. Granted, yes, that was more of a Carlos themed episode, but they could have just it could have been one of those things where they did it with like Lewis going to Ferrari. It was like a tweet thing that popped up. They could have done the same thing with Ollie Behrman. It'd be like Carlos Sainz out, Ollie Behrman to race for Ferrari. If they had literally just done that, I would have been like, okay, they acknowledged the fact that that happened.
Yeah.
I think the last thing I recall they missed was George and Max beef was completely skipped over.
Yeah.
But they wanted to
Like,
include
that was-
George having a panic attack because that's okay to put on camera. We need to have a serious conversation with Netflix about what is considered fun behind the scenes content and what is an invasion of privacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was not good in my opinion. But
No.
to each their own.
What was really great is the P1 podcast with Matt and Tommy interviewed one of the co-executive producers of Drive to Survive. Has any of you seen that?
I haven't seen it yet, no.
Okay. Well, it was like this 40-minute interview, and he actually mentioned that like the teams, they just gotta trust that, you know, Netflix won't do them any harm. And sure, the teams review footage, like, oh, new car parts, they asked to blur out or use a different shot.
Yeah.
But like stuff like that is kind of in the open. Like he was describing how their boom mics in the paddock will pick up media deals or like sponsorship deals or contracts that nobody even knows are happening.
Yeah.
And it could be a major, commercial disadvantage if like, Puma has 2 different deals with 2 different teams. One finds out what the other is getting paid,
Yeah.
and then that gives them an advantage in the next negotiation. So they got to be really careful with that stuff. He said the George one was especially tough, but the teams trust them and they kind of open up their doors to it.
Yeah.
So it comes with this series, but you're right. That was like a very vulnerable moment where it gave him personality and showed he's human. But again, would you want something out there like that with you?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting though, because there's probably so much content that they could have used that they chose not to. But I would bet that there's a lot of teams that would pay like a good money to have like exclusive access to the dailies.
Yeah.
Like, and for people that don't know what dailies are, that's a very old school term, but it's essentially all the footage that they have from certain days.
Mhm.
And I would
So
bet
it's confidential. You get new
that's what I'm saying.
parts.
I would
Hear
bet
what
you
Flavio's thinking mid
Exactly.
negotiations.
Like, could you
Like-
imagine if Red Bull was like, "Hey, I'll pay you $1 million to review the footage from these 3 days," and
Better be in
finds
the-
out
in the
about
cap.
a deal or finds out about something that one of the other teams that they could use to their advantage, whether that be like media wise or whether that be like actual like speed wise or like a driver, like, oh, we're gonna go for Kimi, we're not taking Carlos, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad they did it because then we would have totally missed, what was it, a couple seasons ago when Oscar Piastri flipped from Alpine to McLaren.
Yeah.
But we got all those conversations with Otmar and Zach. The Otmar-Zach meeting, I can't believe
Yeah.
they walked
Yeah.
in with microphones and had that conversation. And now it's on Netflix. Like,
Yeah.
that was so
Yeah.
cool. Like, such insider info. You don't get that in any other sport. So
No.
that was incredible.
Well, it opened the doors for a lot of other sports because now they're doing the Full Swing, Breakpoint, all these shows for, it's a similar style. Obviously,
Yeah, like Saquon Barkley in the
Yeah.
Giants, like the GM
Yeah.
saying, I won't sleep if Saquon Barkley leaves.
Yeah.
Super Bowl
And he
wins.
hasn't slept since.
run it back. No, I think it's funny. I think a lot of the stuff, like Netflix has so much power. Like if you really think about it,
Oh, absolutely.
not just in our sport, but think about how much stuff they must have recorded that nobody wants to get out. Like even for like actors, and stuff,
Personally.
like those
Yeah.
cameras are like always running, so like, because you always got to pick up a moment, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
let's go into. I have written down some of what I would consider the best quotes of the year.
Okay.
I'm gonna read them out, and you have to guess who said it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Good for Lewis. Good for his bank account.
Toto.
Who'd you say? No, not Toto.
Oh.
It's not someone you would expect, but it has been very clipped on social media.
Yeah, I think did they even use it in
They
Drive
did
to
use
Survive?
it. They did use it.
Yeah.
It's not Max.
Is that no?
It's good for Lewis, good for his bank account.
I want something tells me it's Carlos.
Mm-mm.
No.
I'll give you a hint.
It
You want a
sounds
hint?
familiar.
Sure.
This is gonna be very like because I can't just give it to you, so you're gonna have to like read between the lines here. This is Lewis's current teammate's ex-teammate's new teammate.
Oh gosh.
Current. That was
Lewis's
just
current
brain.
teammate's
Valtteri Bottas?
Alex Albon.
There you go. Lewis's
Oh.
current teammate, Charles Leclerc's ex-teammate, Carlos Sainz, new teammate, Alex Albon.
Oh yeah. Damn.
Whew.
All right.
Good.
I probably
I
got
thought
to
it was a non-English speaker, like English second language, because of the way he said it, like grammatically.
Mm-hmm.
We are
That
the
threw me off.
Kardashians of Formula One.
Say again.
We are the Kardashians of Formula One.
Oh, look, Leclerc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
He said it in the car.
I did. I haven't talked to Verstappen because I promised Lewis not to talk to him, but I will have that conversation now.
Carlos?
Christian?
No.
Is it
George.
Toto?
Toto. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
All right. This one you didn't have to even watch Drive to Survive to know it because he definitely said this in the paddock. Signing a driver has some similarities to dating. You start with text and then it has dinner involved in
That's
it. Hotel room.
Valor.
It's James.
Yeah.
James Vowles.
Yeah. That was my guess. Yeah.
I know a good monk.
Oh.
This is so funny. I was like, what?
I know a good monk.
This was in the Monaco episode.
Yeah.
This is like something Danny Rick would say.
No.
Was it a
No.
driver?
Yes.
Okay. I know a good monk. It wasn't George, right?
Nope.
No. I know a good monk.
Norris.
Mm-mm.
No.
Okay.
Think about someone who would use monk, like religion-wise or location-wise, like where this person is from.
Oh.
Is it Albon?
Yeah.
On you, Joe.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
I was about
Okay.
to say.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Go on there too, yeah.
Okay.
It's Cat to Survive.
To survive.
That's
Who
a
had the
So
cat?
funny. I didn't even know this person had a cat. I'd be so for real. That's why I thought it was so funny.
Well, it can't be any of
George?
the dog owners.
Not George.
Mm.
It's Cat to Survive.
I'll give you a hint. He's tall.
Oh, well, it's not George.
Ocon.
All right, interesting.
I know. Ocon was tall.
He's
This is
very.
funny.
Oh, yeah, he's pretty tall.
Between a tomato and a salad, I had him on the phone.
It's got to be one of the principals.
Toto?
No.
No. Is it?
Drive to Survive Classic.
Oh, is it Gunther?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's my next guess.
Don't be a spoiled brat. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Hey,
Is
you're
that
really,
GP?
You're really quizzing us on the Drive to Survive knowledge here. Don't be
is
spoiled.
that like it has to be
GP?
somebody's like manager?
Is it Max engineer?
No.
If not Jos Verstappen, he wouldn't be there.
Wait, no, wait. Is it the McLaren
No.
engineer? Damn.
I'll give you a hint. He also said, I control you every millimeter.
Oh, it's Flavio.
Flavio.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just put me out of my fucking misery. Pardon my French.
Ooh, I've heard that.
This is the last person you would expect to say this, by the way. So don't go on.
Carlos.
Nope.
Oh, it wouldn't have been Daniel.
Mm-mm.
Botas?
Nope. I'll give you a hint. It has to do with the Constructors' Championship.
Charles, right? Didn't he lose? Okay.
Mm-mm.
Oh.
Wait, is it Magnuson?
Nope.
Oh, I'm trying
I'm
to
sure
remember.
he said that at some point.
Yeah, well, when he crashed in the final race.
Checo?
Nope. Do you want me to
Man,
tell you?
Man, we suck.
Probably Norris then. That's my final guess.
You're very close. It's not
Alright,
Norris.
then it's
It was
Oscar.
Oscar?
Oh.
He said this to Oscar. Come on, you're so close.
Andrea?
No. Even
Zach?
closer.
Zach. Yeah.
No.
Oh.
Huh.
This one's actually a team radio. It was the only team radio I have on here. Move of a world champion, that one.
Wait, say it one more time.
Move of a world champion, that one.
Oh, that was Oscar. That was Oscar. Yeah, that was the last race. Yeah.
To a top team, you need the right people in the right place. It's not the quality, it's the it's not it's the quality.
Watch
and
this
now
2
we have
days
the quality.
ago.
Is it Lawrence?
No.
He wasn't in.
What got me about
Oh.
this one was what he said right after this quote. I said that doesn't make any sense. It's
Is
not
it Fred?
the quantity,
No, it's not
it's
Fred.
the quality, and now we have the quality.
Wait, is it Flavio?
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Oh.
Yeah.
And he goes, Jack, and now Jack Doohan is our driver for 2021. And I said, you have spun the narrative that you don't want Jack and that you want to replace him with Franco in 6 races. And you're sitting here on Drive to Survive saying it's not the quantity, it's the quality. And we now have Jack Doohan. I'm like,
Yeah, but they're going quantity.
They're gonna get rid of him.
So many
immediately.
drivers.
Yeah.
About
Man.
that was Simply Lovely. That.
Max Verstappen.
Nope.
No.
Oh, wait, was that Lando that said
the
that?
Lando one?
No.
Yeah. No?
Oh, I have
You're
no
close,
clue.
though. Same team.
Man. Oh, Oscar?
No.
No, it's one of the. It's not Zach, right?
Jack.
It is Zach.
Oh.
I really didn't remember Zach saying it.
He wins the constructors. So, the reason I put this on here is because we had talked about this quote and it being used by other teams and by other drivers. And they're sitting on the pit wall and they have like 2 shots, one of Zach and one of Christian. And it's Abu Dhabi, and they finish the race and he looks in the direction of, granted, I don't even know if that was actually the direction of Red Bull, but for cameras purposes, he looked in the direction of Christian Horner and goes, "That's Simply Lovely, that." And Christian goes, and then they cut to a clip of Christian saying, "Zach's fucking annoying." It's like, all
That's
right,
awesome,
last
man.
one. Every dream needs a team. I hate this quote with passion.
Every dream needs its team.
Every dream.
Oh.
I mean, it sounds familiar.
Lewis?
The person who said this, you're close. The person who said this in Drive to Survive also said it in an interview or something like that in Abu Dhabi, and I hated it.
Is
I
it
was like, that
Toto?
doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I was like, what are you talking about? Because remember, they had a whole thing about it being like, that was on the Halo or something like that.
Oh,
or like,
yeah.
It was?
the team, and I was like, why are you talking about the team when you're losing your driver? You're not losing.
Oh,
your
do you
team.
know what?
Yeah.
You know what sport puts the most motivational quotes on their Halo?
No,
Formula E.
really.
So many teams like put some funny quotes. Like Porsche always tries to do like a silly one,
Yeah.
but some other teams usually throw up something ridiculous on there.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Any final shouts for Drive to Survive before we move on to our predictions for the very first race of the year?
Better than
So
last year.
excited.
That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
I'll
Better
take
than
it.
last year, 100%.
I agree.
Completely agree.
Solid.
I
They didn't
100.
have a lot to work with last year, to be fair. I mean,
Yeah.
like we mentioned, but yeah, definitely better than last year.
100%.
I mean, when you
Alright.
have to make a storyline out of Ocon and Pierre, like, I mean, come on. That's how you know it's a bad Drive to Survive.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's what it is.
No, there's still. I think my final thing is there's still room for growth, but they are
Mhm.
growing. They are getting better.
They're
They're
getting better.
listening to what the true fans of the sport are reacting to.
Mhm.
Like things like when in Miami for like they're showing Lando and his celebrating, they cut to Max in Zandvoort being all pissed off when that's not actually what happened. So those little things are the stuff that they're listening to, I think, and it's happening less and less and less. So
Yeah.
that's what I will end up
Good
on.
stuff.
Now, predictions for Australia. Keep in mind there is an 80% chance of rain on race day.
Oh.
If that comes true, then I'm coming Max P1. Man, do I throw a wild card in there? I think you know what? I will. I'm gonna go Max P1, P2, Leclerc. This just comes right off the dome. Carlos Sainz P3.
Ooh.
That's
Okay.
what I'm saying. If the rain hits, I'm taking experience over everything, which is strange because Lewis Hamilton isn't on there.
Very.
Actually, no, I'm switching it up. Leclerc is no longer on the podium. It's going to be Lewis Hamilton P2. That's what I'm going to do. Put
Alright, so you
experience
said-
on the podium.
So
That's
you're
what I'm gonna
Max, Lewis,
And Carlos. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to
Jason.
do basically the same order as it should have been last year, basically, but not, if that makes sense. Because again, Ferrari swept it. They were 1-2, and it was Carlos and Leclerc. And if Max's brakes didn't blow up, then he would have probably won the race. So that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
That's my order right there.
I like that.
Yeah, I'll say, pending the rain, of course, they gotta go Lewis 1. Without the rain, it would probably be Norris 1. But Lewis 1, Norris 2, and because of the rain only, Max 3.
Interesting.
I like that a lot. No, I was gonna go Lewis. I was gonna go Lewis P1 2.
Yes.
I'm thinking. You know what? I really like your pick, Jason. I do like Lando P2. 3. I also do like Max. I'm not
Lando's
copying
gonna
you.
be
I
on the
just think it's a great. I think it's a great pick.
See, you're not gonna like what I have to say because you just
Well,
said
we
of
all know
course.
you're gonna say Max P1. It's okay.
I know
Oh,
George Russell
I'll
wins
say
the race by 30 seconds. I know, Marina. Get it over with.
All other cars give up because they don't even want to race him.
Max
Yeah,
is not
I
gonna
know.
win the race. But I
Oh,
don't think Lando will be on the podium because it's rain.
Yeah.
We
That's
all
fair.
saw what happened the last time Lando was hit with rain. He went from 1st to 6th while Max went from 17th
It
to
feels
1st.
like so long ago.
It does.
But it really
No,
wasn't.
not that race. Let's talk about Sochi. Anyways.
Oh, Sachi as well.
Oh.
So I'm gonna go Oscar Lewis Max.
Okay.
Lewis,
I like
man.
that.
Huh, okay.
That's good.
I like
What's
that.
the reasoning behind Oscar P1?
I think we've had a lot of home victories recently, and I'm down for another. You know, Lewis and Silverstone parting. I mean, last year it was Lando in Netherlands, but usually it's been Max.
Yeah.
Leclerc and Monaco. So
Yeah.
I think Oscar needs a win that doesn't feel like it's given to him or the team messed it up to make it feel like he didn't deserve it.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm down
Very true.
for Oscar to win.
I like
Also,
that pick.
pray for Oscar's sister Hattie. She is studying in Australia, and she keeps getting on the metro and hearing his voice because he's doing like voiceover stuff and
Oh,
seeing his
boy.
face everywhere. And she keeps
Oh
posting.
no.
It's
So-
funny.
Poor
I thought I
Val.
would quickly throw that in as part of my I want him to win so that she can just at least have some whatever.
Security. Yeah.
Security. Whatever. Before we end off, F1 Fantasy. Very quickly, one driver has to be on your team for F1 Fantasy.
One driver has to be on your team.
If
It's so
you-
hard first
You're
week.
telling someone who is not that tuned in, didn't watch much of last year, one team they had to put on their fantasy team, who would you
Are we
pick?
talking? You want to do team or do you want to do driver?
Sorry, one driver, yeah.
Okay, we'll do a driver. Well, I mean, he was the first choice on mine, so it was the first go ahead. He needs to be on the team for me, so I'll just vocalize that. Leclerc. I had Leclerc as my first choice.
I like that.
I think he will be maybe not the most consistent, but as a go-getter right for the first race, I think he'll be a safe choice, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be after the first and second races you really understand where some of these teams stand. God forbid, what if Stake is quicker than Haas for some reason,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it'll be after those first couple races you at least get some standing, but he's my choice for a safe bet to be on the team is Leclerc.
Nice.
Yeah.
Jason?
As badly as I want to say Lewis, he's definitely overvalued and really expensive. So I'd consider putting him on the team. But as far as a value play, because you don't want to spend too much, I was really thinking George Russell or Kimi Antonelli. I think Mercedes has been on that upward trajectory. Both of them are fast. Kimi being the rookie is always the unknown, and George being kind of anonymous compared to Lewis. could be a good value. So it's got to be one of those two. I'm just not sure who I definitely want yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, Steven?
I was toying with this idea, and I think I like it. Now, I don't know if I'd have him as their number one driver, but I honestly think Oscar Piastri would be a great pick as someone you have to have in your team. I just think he's a number two driver with number one potential.
He was my number 2 last year. Oscar was always very consistent, so that is a fair point. He also was really excellent in the second half of the year.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. This is kind of a curveball. I think you should put Pierre Gasly on your team. The reason I say that is because Pierre Gasly is still undervalued in terms of how much he's worth on fantasy. But he is very consistent with what he has. And one of the things that's important for fantasy is outscoring your teammate, which I really think he will do. Kind of best of the rest mentality, doing better in the race than you do in qualifying, which has been very consistent for Pierre. So I think Pierre is definitely one to watch.
fair enough. Respect that. Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned next week, probably Tuesday, not Monday, because of Australia's crazy timings and the end of our ever-deserved spring break. But thank you guys for watching this week. Stay tuned on our socials at Let's Latest on Instagram and TikTok, and we'll see you next week. Bye, guys.
Peace.
Yeah.